I've trained more than 100,000 salespeople in every niche you can think of. And I offer companies training where if it doesn't work, it's completely free. And after doing that for more than 25 years, I can tell you that there's only one way to get better at selling. And more importantly, I'll show you exactly how to use the same process that I use with clients paying me six figures for yourself today. But before I get into it, if you want to understand the 20 essential skills that every sales professional needs to understand, I've put together a free ebook that allows you to develop your skills and success in a step-by-step way. Click the link in the description below and we'll send you your free copy. I've spent 25 years becoming an expert in human behavior. I've studied everything from behavioral psychology to NLP. And more importantly, in the last 25 years, I've personally sold more than £50 million worth of business to my clients. That's around $65 million at today's exchange rate. That's not my teams, that's not my businesses, that's me personally. And I've done it by applying exactly what I teach you. There's one strategy that I've developed that works consistently, no matter whether you're selling on the phone or face-to-face or whatever your sales cycle might be. It comes in 3 steps. The first of those steps is overcoming your innate natural fear of rejection. Now, I know everybody's immediate response is, no, I'm not afraid. I have no fear. I am bulletproof. Yeah, of course you are, darling. We all have an innate fear of rejection. It's within our DNA. It's built into us because as a human species, we're not big, we're not especially fast, we're not especially strong, we don't have claws or really sharp teeth. So out in the wild when we were first developing, we were kind of useless on our own. But what we have is big brains and the ability to cooperate. And the ability to cooperate with other humans is what made us successful. Because while I, on my own, can't take down a moose, me with my spear and 50 of my mates, we can take down the moose and we can eat for the winter. So our ability to cooperate is part of how we've developed. It's part of what made us successful. Now, what comes from that is also that being rejected by people, going back to the cave that we were living in and having everybody else not want to cooperate with us, having everybody else reject us, well, it wasn't just socially embarrassing as it might be now, it was life and death. If we were rejected by the group, we died, we starved, we died of exposure, whatever it might be. We were driven off and killed by our former friends and colleagues. So it's not just a matter of blushing and feeling a bit awkward. It's a matter of being thrown to the ground, beaten to death with rocks. It's a big thing. Hardwired back into our little reptilian or monkey brains back here. So when we have this fear of, oh, if I pick up the phone and call a stranger, are they going to tell me to sod off? Are they going to be rude to me? Are they going to knock me back? Now, this fear of rejection comes in lots of different flavors. It comes in lots of different pseudo-technical names about, call reluctance, and being afraid of cold calling, whatever it might be. But it's actually, really take it down, it's actually a fear of being knocked back and feeling rejected. The fear that stops somebody who's a novice to selling picking up the phone and calling the stranger is precisely the same fear that stops a guy approaching a beautiful woman in a bar. It's precisely the same fear, just in a different context. And it's not gender specific. We all have it. We all have this almost primal need, not almost, literal primal need to fit in and not be knocked back, not be rejected. So the first thing we have to do is to, if we can't unwire it, and it's really difficult to unwire it, but what we can do is push past it. And I don't just mean embrace the suck. It's perfectly logical as a piece of advice, but it's not very useful, is it? Embrace the suck. How do I do that? Well, here's how you do it. The first thing is that your fear of rejection happens because of. And once you work out what the because of is, you can start to unwind it and reduce it. So the first thing that happens is, if you're about to do something where you might be rejected, which is the entire sales process, it's everything to do with contacting a stranger and asking them for money, is undertaking the fear of being rejected. Whether it's a cold call or asking for a price increase or trying to get a bigger deal or whatever it might be, there's always the, they might say no, they might knock me back, they might be a bit rude, they might take offense. Oh, I don't want to push it too hard because the state of the moon, the phase of the tides, they're psychologically and emotionally not in the right place to. All of that is our fear of rejection nattering away. It just takes the form of the paranoia bird. What are they going to say about you? What are they going to think? Oh, it's all going to go wrong. Oh, you're going to look ignorant. You're going to look stupid. You're going to be a fool. What are your friends going to say? What's going to happen about that? Oh, all that stuff that runs through our heads. Well, maybe not your head, because you are invulnerable and bulletproof. Really? Really? It's just you and me. It's just you and me talking. So let's be honest, hey. We all have it. I have it. I've been making cold calls for a living for 40 years. I know I only look like I'm 35, but it's not the years, it's the mileage. I've been making cold calls professionally for 40 years. Actually, that's not true. I've been making cold calls professionally for about 35 years. I've been being paid to make cold calls for 40, and there's a big difference. Anyway, moving on. Whether it's a cold call or whether it's some other scenario, we all have it. I have it. I have to follow the same structure that I'm about to teach you my first 3 or 4 calls of the day. Even though I've been doing it for donkey's years, and even though I've done millions and millions of pounds worth that started with a cold call, it's still there. So the first thing you have to do is deal with your self-talk. And that self-talk, there's a couple of ways of dealing with it. Firstly, instead of letting the paranoid bird go, what if it goes wrong? Take a conscious decision to tell yourself how well it's going to go. What's the outcome going to be? What's their response going to be? How's the other person going to respond to you? What are they going to say? What are they going to do? If something slightly iffy is going to happen, what are you going to say? What are your responses going to be? How do you deal with any potential objections before they come up? Literally plan the call in your head. Visualize it. Hallucinate it, if you want to go that far. Just imagine what's going to happen and tell yourself not just that it's going to happen, but how you're going to make it happen and why. Literally replace the negative self-talk with your positive self-talk. And to give you a slightly extreme example that I learned from Dr. Richard Bandler, who's one of the 2 guys that invented NLP. He's one of the guys that originally trained Tony Robbins to do his amazing stuff. And he was talking to us, and somebody just had a really persistent bit of self-talk. And they say to themselves, well, you're going to do this and it's going to go great. And this bit of self-talk would just go, do you think you're kidding? Yeah. And Richard just looked them straight in the eyes. Said, okay, that voice inside your head won't shut up. Just ask it a question. What's the question? If you're so damn smart, what should I do? If you're so clever, why haven't you helped me more? And the voice will either give you a good answer about what to do next, or the voice will just go and go away. I know it sounds silly, But if it works, I don't care. So you've got to take control of your self-talk. That's the first version of beating your fear of rejection. The second, and I deliberately mentioned Tony Robbins a minute ago, the second is your physiology. Your physiology, your body language, not reading body language, but using your body language. Because there's this obvious thing that we never really think about, which is we know that if we get down in the dumps, if we get depressed, if we lose our energy and motivation, it comes out in our body language. If you start to lose your energy and you start to lose your oomph, if you get up and got up and went, your head drops and your shoulders drop and your chin goes and you just start to flump a little bit and your breathing goes all shallow and you just haven't got the energy there. Your facial muscles go all floppy. Oh God, I can't stay there. That's too depressing. So we even have it in our language. We'll say things like, oh, keep your chin up. If we're watching a sports team that's having a hard time, we'll say, oh, their heads have dropped. They're in trouble now. Their heads have dropped. This is hardwired. We get this. We all know that your emotion changes your body language. But we very rarely realize that our body language changes our emotions. So if you change the way you're sitting or change the way you're standing, or if you're sitting, stand up. If you're standing, move around. I'm just going to do this sitting so I stay in shot, but if you sit up tall, if you lift your chin up, if you put a great big grin on your face, go all Tom Cruise if you want, go, Charlize Theron, who cares? Big ass grin on your face whilst running your positive self-talk about what you're going to do and how it's going to work and why it's going to work. And you run those two together and you drop your shoulders down and back and you make your arm movements bigger and not just randomly, don't just randomly smack somebody in the face, but your arm movements bigger, bolder. If you lift this point here on the sternum, the me point, I know ladies, but lift that me point up towards the ceiling, pull your shoulders down and back, lift your chin up. It is really difficult to feel deflated and negative and demotivated while you're smiling, standing in a Superman pose with your chin up, feeling positive. Now, Tony Robbins and anybody that's expert in NLP has been teaching this for decades, literally decades. And in the last few years, a behavioral psychologist at Harvard has actually put in the research and proven clinically, chemically, and physiologically that taking 15 seconds in the Superman pose changes your body chemistry that fast. Measurably, it's in your bloodstream. It changes your blood chemistry, and it does it in, I think 15 seconds is way too long. I've never known it take anything like that long. But I guess they run it just to make sure that they could actually verify the testing. But this is hardwired into us as human beings. It's got nothing to do with gender. It's got nothing to do with nationality or culture or race, anything else. If you're a human being, that works. Change your self-talk and change your physiology. If you can't change your self-talk because you're feeling a bit down, change your physiology and then change your self-talk. But if you combine those two things and you stick at them, you repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, you change your energy levels, you change your state, you start to move and act and put some real energy into your body language and change your self-talk to what you're going to do and why it's going to work and what the results are going to be, and you do that repeatedly, eventually your unconscious will get the message. And the paranoia bird will go, okay, fair point. And it won't go away because it's hardwired back to cave days, but it'll go quiet. If it does say something, it'll just be a bit sort of like that. It's not going to be real. It's just going to be a bit, yeah. And you can safely ignore it. So the first step, beat your fear of rejection. It sounds like a massive lifelong project. It's not. that fast, seconds, and it works. I'm recording this in January, so this might sound like a familiar story. Every gym is full to the brim. You can't get on any of the weights, you can't get on the machines. It's all chocker for about 3 weeks in January. Come April, there's tumbleweed. There's nobody there. There's dust on some of the heavy weights. There's just nothing happening. Yeah? You ever wanted to make a change and quit when it didn't happen immediately? Yeah, we've all been there. I've been to the gym once. I'm fit now. Not really. No. I've been out for a walk. I've bought my weighted vest from Amazon. I've put it on. I've been out for a walk. I've done my 10K. I'm done. Surely that's it. I'm fit for life now. Doesn't really work like that, does it? But for some reason, we all know that it doesn't work with our physical fitness and our health, but we kind of assume it will, to do with changing our psychology or changing our habits or changing our behavior and our skill set. And it really doesn't. So let me give you step two. Step two is to go to first principles. So if you look at the way you're selling, and it's often, this is a bit of a sort of a pro tip, it's often easier to look at the way your colleagues are selling because you've got some emotional distance from it. But look at your sales process or your colleague's sales process and try and turn it into a sequence of steps. Imagine that you're trying to create the sat nav for what happens. Okay? So not just, well, you pick up the phone and call a stranger. What happens before that? How do you decide who to call in what sequence? Before you pick up the phone, how are you deciding what you're going to talk about or what questions you're going to ask? If you're running if you've got multi-products or multiple services, how do you prioritize which of them you're going to talk about? What's the process? Then you pick up the phone. What do you say? What questions do you ask? Literally, okay, is it one conversation deal? Or do you pick up the phone, talk to somebody, which sets up the first meeting? Okay, how do you confirm that meeting? What do you do? The more steps you break it into, yeah, I know, it sounds like a massive pain in the butt. It can be. But the more steps you break it into, the easier it is to get better at each one. Let me stick with cold calling as the most simple example. It's also one of the most common fears. But let's deal with cold calling as an example. If you say, get better at cold calling, right? How? There's the rub. Okay? Get better, do better, be better, do more. That doesn't make any sense. It's like saying be fitter. Good in principle. How? Lift more weights, run more distance, go on rucks with a weighted vest, learn gymnastics, do yoga, Pilates. What? You want me to roll and do jiu-jitsu? What is it you want me to do? What's the steps? Because when I know the steps, I can get better. So you wouldn't say get stronger. You'd say week by week, increase the weight on your bench press by 5% and do 3 sets to failure. And each set should be between 15 and 20 reps. That's a plan. And you can follow that and you can get better. And you can tell that you're getting better, which automatically improves your motivation because you're seeing results. Don't we all love to see results? We're salespeople. We love a scoreboard as long as it's going in the right direction. So break your sales process into the smallest possible pieces. So with a cold call, it's okay. What's the first 15 seconds? How do I get somebody to actually agree to talk to me? Okay, how do I engage them? What's the rest of the call look like? What are the questions I'm going to ask them? What examples do I give them or testimonials do I mention? And break it down into the smallest pieces. And then start measuring the results you get from each. So I made 10 calls. Fine. On the first 5 calls, 100% of people told me to sod off. On the second 5 calls, 50% of people stayed with me. Okay, there's something different about the second group of calls. Is it the people you called or what you said or how you said it? Because there's a huge difference between going, "Hi, it's Stephen," and going, "Hi, it's Stephen." So literally break it down into pieces, start to record your results for each of the individual pieces. If that means your sales process goes from 5 steps to 50 steps, you don't need to share this with anybody else. This is for you. You don't necessarily need to share your training plan, your exercise plan with all your friends around the office. Same with this. Your personal sales process might have 50 steps, whereas as far as the company is concerned, it's got 5. That's fine. Because what you then do is step 3. Having measured your baseline, you get the reps in. You get the reps in like you would at the gym. You get the reps in and you do the sets, and you focus on improving each little piece of the process, each step a little better every day. And if you stack lots of little gains back to back, after 3 months, you wouldn't believe the difference that you can create. So let me give you an example. This is where the power of compounding comes in. Somebody once asked Albert Einstein what was the most powerful force in the universe, and they were expecting to say, I don't know, gravity or black holes or whatever, entropy, I don't know. What he actually said, compound interest. I think he might have been slightly glib, but compound interest, because when you stack lots of gains and you multiply it over time, the results are spectacular. Let me give you an example. If you got 10% better at 3 things, yeah? When I say to people when I'm doing a live session, if you get 10% better at 3 things, what would happen to your sales results? Pretty much everybody goes, well, you get 10% better. And those who are more switched on go, well, you'd get 30% better, which is closer to the truth, but not accurate. Because 10% here is then multiplied by 10% here, and is then multiplied by 10% there. So if you get 10% better at 3 different things, you actually get 33% better overall. So there are lots of parts of your sales process where it would be easy to get a 10% improvement. There's other ones where you can get a 5% improvement. There's others where you can only get a 1% improvement. That's fine. So do 10%, 10%, 10%, 5%, 1%, 2%, 6%. Multiply them all together. And that is why I'm not actually taking a risk when I tell my corporate clients that I'll either improve their sales results or it's all free. Because I go back to first principles and I help people get a little bit better at lots of things. And when you stack those results, the improvement is dramatic, spectacular. The kind of results that people go, you can't possibly make somebody 30% better in 3 or 4 months. No, you can't make somebody 30% better at a black box of stuff, but you can make somebody 10% better at 3 things. You can definitely make them 5% better at 6 or 7 things. And that is the way the gains work. You don't become jacked at the gym by going once, then tripling the weight and thinking you can lift it. For God's sake, never overhead if you're even thinking about trying that. But what you can do is go to the gym 3-4 times a week, 5 times a week for 6 months and lift a little bit more or do a few more reps or one extra set each week, each month, each quarter, and you just stack the gains together. And after 6 months, you might not be jacked, but you won't be where you started from. And the scores on the doors won't be either. And that, beat your fear of rejection, go back to first principles so that you can work out how to get better at lots of things, get the reps in and score them. Measure your reps, get the reps in. That combined is the improvement strategy that will create transformation in your sales results, hell, in your personal life. Because if you can look back in 6 months' time and go, wow, I'm doing 50% more, and I'm actually doing the same amount of effort, or I'm doing 50% more and less effort, I'm doing twice as much, and I'm working 20% fewer hours, which is doable. I've done it, I've seen it, but it's not easy and it's not simplistic. It is a function of putting the reps in on the right things often enough. That's the way the world works. The first step in transforming your results and transforming your life for the better is to understand what skills you need to get better at so that you can, get the reps in. So I've put together a free ebook that explains the 20 essential skills that every sales professional needs. It allows you to develop your skills and your techniques deliberately and sequentially. So click the link in the description below and we'll send you a free copy. If this has been useful, remember to hit the like, subscribe and the notification bell. You know the routine by now. There's a new video coming out at least every week, often more than once a week, and every single one of them is filled with sales and influence techniques and strategies that you can use. You can use them immediately to start to get results and help to build your success and build ultimately the life that you want. So watch these videos that are being recommended so that you can improve your results, build your success and generate some real wealth and security. And I'll see you next time.